Let's move over to Emma James is here with Media Watch. Good evening to you. And you're starting with this scandal here in France over one of President Macron's security officers.
Yes, Alexandre Benalla is the gentleman in question, a man so often seen at the side of Emmanuel Macron, especially during his presidential campaign, because he was his bodyguard. However, a video has been circulated very widely showing him beating up or hitting a female protester and then going far further, appearing to stamp on a male protester. You can see there he's highlighted with the arrow. And it really is a very unpleasant thing to witness. Now, it's even more unusual because he's never been a police officer. He was out with the police. He'd asked for a day off work from the Élysée Palace to observe police operations on May the 1st, which is a traditional day for demonstrations here in France. So he was there not as a police officer, yet was carrying out these very full-on assaults, really.
He clearly wasn't observing, was he?
No, absolutely not. Now, ordinarily a very shadowy figure, but right now he is on the front page of tomorrow morning's Libération newspaper, and the words there, "Beware of the gorilla," a very popular French song. And you can see there just how close, literally, he is to Emmanuel Macron in that photograph. There is a big problem with this story, and a lot of people see it being more in the case of how Emmanuel Macron has handled it. The Huffington Post's front page at the moment says silence is golden because he's had very little to say on this issue. Elsewhere on the site, they have this article saying why this particular affair could shake Emmanuel Macron. Because all that he has said so far when asked about it is that the Republic is unalterable, which isn't really much of an answer at all. And while he is staying virtually silent, his political opponents are very much going on the attack. What's interesting, and a lot of people are retweeting this today and sharing this image, this was his tweet from the 1st of May, when these protests took place, when this happened. And he said, "I firmly condemn the violence which took place. Everything will be done to ensure that the perpetrators are identified and held accountable for their actions." Of course, the problem that people have is that Alexandre Benalla, to their minds, has not been held accountable at all. There is a petition online. It was only created a few hours ago, already nearly 30,000 signatures. The numbers ticking up very, very quickly. And they want to see him sacked. They want him terminated, not just given a 15-day or 2-week suspension. Because he's been allowed to continue working at the Élysée Palace. He is no longer the bodyguard of Emmanuel Macron. He's been given a more administrative role, but he was not sacked. And that, for a lot of people, is a big problem. Now, one thing that's interesting to note, though, is that this video is not new. It was shared on the 1st of May this year. And it's perhaps interesting to see that it didn't get that much attention when it's just a routine, common or garden case of plain old police brutality. This one was shared about 3,000 times, but that may well be because people are again sharing it today in light of this story. This Twitter user saying that what shocks me most is the inaction and complicity of the police officers. They know he's not one of them. They are like robots without brains and without ethics. Now, that may be a little harsh. If you're there with somebody who they know is a bigwig at the Élysée Palace, perhaps they felt they couldn't step in when he overstepped the mark. But certainly a lot of people very angry about how this has been handled.
It's an absolutely shocking state of affairs. Absolutely shocking. Now, let's leave that one to Stu. Let's move on to Emma's next story. You've been delving into the ongoing row over the World Cup winners, Les Bleus, France winning the World Cup, and whether we should or should not be talking so much about their African origins.
Yes, it's a row that's been going on for quite some weeks after people started to say they were the last African team left in the World Cup. And people said, why do they keep referring to this team as African, placing too much emphasis really on their African heritage? The latest to fall foul of this particular hot topic is Trevor Noah, the host of The Daily Show in the US. He's South African himself, and he was criticised very heavily for saying on one of his shows that Africa won the World Cup. He actually received a letter from the French ambassador, Gérard Araud, who was particularly incensed by the content of his programme the other day, saying all but 2 of the 23 in the squad were born in France, learned football in France. They are proud of their country, France. And he says that the team and the squad illustrates the equality and fraternity that the country's motto is all about. However, Trevor Noah didn't take this lying down. He respectfully, I think, responded to this. Last night on the show again, he talked about, tried to give a bit of an idea of what exactly he was really trying to say, what his intentions were. Take a look at this clip.
When I'm saying they're African, I'm not saying it as a way to exclude them from their Frenchness, but I'm rather using it to include them in my Africanness. I'm saying, I see you, my French brother of African descent. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like somebody saying, oh, so if you play with your naked child, that's a problem, but if I do it, I'm a pedophile? Yeah, yeah, there's a big difference.
So some really interesting points made there by Trevor Noah, and it is well worth looking up the full clip on YouTube because it is a discussion that is constantly had here in France. You know, at what point does a Frenchman become a Frenchman regardless of their origins? One person who was very angry about this was Nicolas Batum, who plays for the French handball team. He says he's worn the jersey with France emblazoned on it. He's won the medals, he's won the trophies, and he basically is very proud to play for France, regardless of whatever other origins he may have. The thing that he points out, and I think is so important, is that it's the younger generation looking up to him who maybe see themselves in the mirror. When they look at him, they see that they could possibly become stars of the French sporting world. And when they hear people saying that if you're not black, you can't really be French, and those words really do tend to echo what the far right say here in France, and that's why people are so upset. But it is a very difficult balancing act.
It is. Fact of the matter, France, world champions. Same issue could be applied to Belgium, could be applied to England too, couldn't it? Absolutely. So there's lots of, obviously, lots to examine on this one. Emma, thank you very much indeed. Emma with Media Watch. Kate with the business, as ever, thank you. And